Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my new video where we are going to go over my top 5 tips that I think every single player needs to know before jumping in on the new reworked Volibear. Now, I put timestamps at every single section of my video. They're going to be at the top. If you want to skip over a certain tip, if you already have a good understanding of the point I'm trying to convey, as well as down below in the scroll bar, there is going to be different segments that are going to be separated by the different tips, so you can just have a really easy time navigating this video because I heavily value your guys' time. And as I'm a bit limited with this format, only doing 5 tips, I heavily encourage you guys, if you have your own tips on Volibear, I'm releasing this video as soon as the rework is coming out, just to try and help as many people before they jump into their first ranked game. So make sure to add your own tips down below, as there are going to be a lot of new things, I'm sure, that are discovered that are going to be really good on the champion. So with all that out of the way, let's get into the first tip. Alright, and jumping into tip number 1, I'm going to go over a few fundamentals that are going to be extremely important to understand when you are playing Volibear. First is you really are going to rely, when you are in the top lane, on your dueling potential. Volibear is going to be an extremely strong duelist in the top lane because he gets the increased attack speed, extra bonus magic damage, and is going to have a great mix of physical damage done and a bit more of magic damage done that is going to be in a percentage HP form in your Sky Splitter E, and this is just going to be extremely hard for people to build against. The second thing I want you guys to focus on is, before you go into trades for people, make sure to look to get that fully stacked Relentless Storm, so you're going to be getting more damage on the enemies before you start fighting them, and you can even get a extremely fast full Conqueror stack up to further increase your potential when you are doing that. The second thing I want to talk about in this tip is, when you use your R, you are going to be gaining a extremely large amount of HP. As you can see, I just gained a crap ton of 608 extra HP and 50 attack range. So when using your ultimate in combination of things like Titanic Hydra that scale off HP, or things like Sterix, you are going to see really great benefits with those type of items, as well as your W that scales really well with your bonus damage. So you are going to be having a lot more both damage and defensive capabilities when using your Stormbringer, as well as with your E getting a shield and extra damage done, your W giving you a stun and then extra damage, and your Q giving you bonus movement speed and stun and extra damage. Volibear is going to have a really nice kit that is going to get both an offensive and a defensive capability from each one of his abilities, so you need to make sure that you are weaving those in correctly at the correct time. Say you're playing against a champion with a lot of bursts, getting that shield on the Volibear is going to be extremely important, so you can absorb a bit of that trade. And that will wrap up tip number 1. Alright, and jumping into tip number 2, I want to talk about the biggest change, in my opinion, for Volibear, and that is how they really fixed his weaknesses. When Volibear, previously, before his rework, his biggest weakness was getting kited out and really just getting damaged and getting his passive proc before he can even reach the enemies. How they fixed that is giving him mobility and a dash in his Stormbringer, which is going to be so nice, and then also a range slow from his E, a increased movement speed with his Q. He is going to be rather similar to Set, except that he gets a free casted ultimate that is going to do a slow and going to close a lot of distance. So how you want to be looking to play out team fights, so that old really bad feeling on Volibear doesn't happen, where you just get kited out by a ADC, maybe something like Ashe that has a bit of movement speed and can just kite you around. Looking for these flanks and making sure that you are having a sweeper and getting these really big side flanks are going to be extremely important when you are playing Volibear. Now, there's a couple things I want to talk about that are going to be pretty important and are going to be beneficial. If you have ever played Swain, this E is going to seem very familiar to you because it is pretty much the same as the W of Swain. It might be off by a half a second or two, but it has a very similar timing to the Swain W, and it is going to be extremely big in playing out those trades where you're able to get a shield that is going to be based on your maximum health. So obviously HP builds are going to be huge on Volibear, and they are just going to be extremely important that you know how to build him correctly for the different situations. If you've played Set at all recently, having a good understanding of how his Q works, it's going to be the same. You're going to get more movement speed towards enemies when this is procced, and also you get that really nice reset, and he becomes enraged if he is immobilized before he stuns a target and resets the ability and its cooldown. So Volibear is going to be a lot harder to deal with. He's going to be something akin to maybe a Garen, but has even more mobility to get on top of people. So keep this in mind when you are playing Volibear, and that will wrap up tip number 2. Alright, and jumping into tip number 3, there are going to be a bunch of different builds when you are playing Volibear, and you want to pick the correct build for your particular playstyle. In my opinion, just because I've played a lot of bruisers in the past, my favorite build, and probably the one that I'd have the most fun with, would be something like a Triforce build, maybe with a Titanic, maybe with Sterix, and a lot of HP, and maybe a little bit of on-hit damage if they have some magic damage, and that is paired extremely well with that kind of playstyle is the Conquer Rune Triumph, a little bit of tenacity, maybe coup de grace, and then revitalize and conditioning can be very beneficial when you are playing Volibear in that kind of playstyle. However, if your team has a lot of damage, say you have a 4-carry team, you're playing Volibear in the top and jungle, and you just have a bunch of squishies on your team, you want to look at things like Aftershock and building full tank, because the great thing about Volibear's kit is it utilizes a lot of percentage HP damage that is going to be great for just having high base damages and not really having to worry about just being a useless tank. I think that you are always going to be relatively strong. You aren't going to be able to just absolutely destroy backliners with a full tank build with Aftershock, but you will be able to be a considerable threat that they are going to at least have to kite you out and respect you as a damage dealer. And finally, there are going to be, I'm pretty sure there are going to be a lot of Volibear supports because of how the bottom lane works right now and how often mid laners like to roam and junglers like to roam. Having the dive mechanic and disabling turrets with the Stormbringer is going to be huge. On top of, obviously, when you're playing support, you're going to have Aftershock, so you're going to be an extremely tanky champion that is going to really enable a lot of dives and really put a lot of the bot laners behind. And that will wrap up tip number 3. Alright, and jumping into tip number 4 with Volibear, I've talked about the top lane duelist Volibear, I've talked about the tanky diver support Volibear, but one thing that is going to be extremely important for you guys to understand is Volibear is going to be an absolutely amazing jungle pick because he has all the type of tools that you really want in the jungle. He has the increased attack speed and really good consistent damage that is going to come out of his lightning claws for AoE camps like the chickens and the raptors, as well as percentage HP damage from his E and his W that is going to provide a lot of single target damage, as well as being a rather tanky champion. His clears are going to be pretty healthy, as well as he is going to be able to get a heal with his empowered W on the wounded targets. So really look to utilize Volibear in the jungler. His ganks are going to be really bananas because after 6 he's going to have really strong ult and to be able to chase people down, but even before his level 6, getting that range slow off into increased movement speed and into a stun with a lot of high base damages coming out of your frenzied maul, he's going to be a really strong overall jungler. So make sure that you guys keep this in mind, that Volibear, in my opinion, is going to be able to be played in a variety of different roles. Right now, I would say there's 3 archetypes in the tanky support diver, the jungler, really high tempo, a lot of farming, decent ganks, and then the top lane bruiser. And that will wrap up tip number 4 for Volibear. Alright, and getting into the final tip with Volibear, I'm just going to go over an optimal trade and how you are going to want to look to play this out. Let's say this is pre-6, and this is going to be the optimal way you would look to trade with the enemy. First up, you would want to get your passive stacked up on minions before you engage the enemy. Second, you can engage them with getting your increased Q, or if they walk up to you, you do not want to start the fight off with Q, as it is an auto attack reset. So again, we want to have our passive stacked up. We can do auto Q, auto W, and then you can start using your E when you see bursts coming down and keep playing the trade in. The reason why you want to do a very early W is because you want to get him in a wounded state as early as possible. Even in early trades, you do not have to start off with your Q. You can start off with your W, but the important thing is you really want to be weaving in auto attacks between. So you want to start off the trade with an auto W, auto Q, and then you can really guarantee, you'll almost guarantee your E Sky Splitter hitting the enemy target by throwing it down preemptively when you know that you are going to get a thundering smash. And then when you are post 6 and they are looking to run away from your trades, you can look to chase them down and get a really nice slow, and then even look to tower dive them with your ability to shut down towers as well. So that's kind of my optimal trading pattern right now. And then obviously you would change it up when you get things like Trinity Force and Titanic Hydra, but I really think that Volibear is going to be an absolutely tremendous duelist. The things that you really just want to pay attention to are the auto attack resets, getting an early wound, setting up your E Sky Splitter on the Q Thunder Smash, and using your R as maybe a little bit of a chase down or an initial engage to set up the rest of your combo, as well as you can set up your Sky Splitter with the slow that is going to be provided by your ultimate. That's gonna wrap up my final tip, guys. I know that these are going to be a little bit more just introductory tips for people, but I just want to give people a solid base set of tips before they run into the Reworked Volibear in ranked, because this is going to be a pretty common occurrence for a lot of people, that they're going to get a first time Volibear that doesn't really know what he's doing, doesn't know how to look to flank on team fights, doesn't really know how to look to build, doesn't know how to look to do the optimal combo in the situation. So this video is for those people, and make sure if you have your own tips, comment down below if there's something a little bit more advanced that you want to go over. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Maybe a cool Volibear build that you have. And with all that out of the way, guys, thank you so much for checking out my video, and have a good day.